Monica Lewinsky had just quit a low-level job in the Clinton administration when prosecutors and the media upended her life. In 1995, Monica Lewinsky was just another college grad trying to figure out her next step. But over the next 3 years, she would become entangled in one of the biggest scandals in the recent history of the United States. So what is she doing now? A new Ryan Murphy limited series explores Monica Lewinsky's tumultuous years in Washington, D.C., her involvement within President Clinton, and a shocking betrayal by her supposed friend, Linda Tripp. Lewinsky got her internship at the White House through a prominent Democratic donor and a family friend. She graduated from Lewis and Clark College in Portland, Oregon, in June 1995. The Post's January 1998 profile of her, relying heavily on interviews with her peers, paints a picture of a young, extremely gregarious woman whom people often accused of flirting with strangers or being inappropriately intimate with them. He referred to her as refreshing compared to other DC career women and nice, gregarious, self-deprecating and almost too open and optimistic. He also found her a more fashion-forward dresser than much of DC. In addition, she caught the eye of President Clinton. In July 1995, she began interning in Panetta's office, and in November 1995, she and Bill Clinton had their first intimate encounter. While alone in Panetta's office, she uncovered her thong by lifting her blazer to reveal its straps. She explained to the investigators she was showing more interest by lifting her blazer. She took over mail handling for the Legislative Affairs Office and began earning a salary there in December 1995. She and Clinton had a total of 10 sexual encounters, 8 during her tenure at the White House and 2 after that, between November 1995 and March 1997, but they didn't meet in person between April and December 1996. During those 9 months, Lewinsky testified that they had sexual banter over the phone. Clinton's re-election campaign and Lewinsky's transfer to the Pentagon coincided with the timing. During her course at the Pentagon, Lewinsky met and befriended Linda Tripp, a former George H.W. Bush White House employee who herself had been transferred to the Pentagon for similar reasons, and confided in her about her affair with Clinton. Clinton and Lewinsky's physical affair resumed a few months after the election in 1996. Lewinsky testified that their intimate encounters were limited to kissing, his manual stimulation of her, including, now infamously, with a cigar, and her manual and oral stimulation of him. She also testified that it was not until their penultimate sexual encounter in February 1997, during which she was wearing a navy blue Gap shirt dress, that he allowed himself to ejaculate. That dress would subsequently be taken by prosecutors and tested for Clinton's DNA, after Lewinsky, who testified that the dress had not been kept as a souvenir but was not immediately cleaned, noticed much later that it was stained. She initially thought it was spinach dip. On March 29, 1997, they had their final encounter. On May 24, having, according to the Star report, heard gossip about their affair from the same people who had recommended Lewinsky for the internship, Clinton ended their relationship. In the fall of 1997, Tripp began taping her conversations with Lewinsky. She started leaking them to reporters in October 1997. In December 1997, Clinton was required to answer under oath to written questions as part of a deposition in another case. According to the Star report, he was asked to identify all women who were state or federal employees and with whom he had had sexual relations since 1986, and he answered that there weren't any. On January 7, 1998, Lewinsky and her lawyer filed an affidavit denying Clinton's affair. Between January 9 and January 12, 1998, Linda Tripp gave the tapes of her conversations with Lewinsky to her lawyer and spoke of their existence to investigators. They wired her and sent her to a meeting with Lewinsky on January 14, 1998, in which Lewinsky encouraged her to make false statements. Lewinsky met Tripp on January 16, 1998. Vanity Fair reported in 2014 that she was detained by the FBI, discouraged from contacting a lawyer, and threatened with more than 2 decades in jail for her false affidavit. In exchange for her testimony, they offered her immunity. Her parents ultimately hired a lawyer, who advised her to wait to take the value until after he spoke to her. Clinton was deposed in person on January 17, 1998, and asked about an affair with Lewinsky. He denied that he had engaged in a sexual affair, a sexual relationship, or sexual relations with Ms. Lewinsky, according to the Star report, which had been defined by lawyers in the investigation as when the person knowingly engages in or causes contact with the genitalia, anus, groin, breast, inner thigh, or buttocks of any person with an intent to arouse or gratify the sexual desire of any person. The Drudge Report first leaked the existence of Lewinsky and the alleged affair on January 19, and the mainstream media broke the story on January 21. Clinton denied the experience. Lewinsky and her lawyer announced their intention to cooperate with investigators in exchange for immunity on January 25. Clinton gave his infamous public address in which he said, "I do not have sexual relations with that woman," on January 28. On July 28, Lewinsky, her lawyers, and the investigators reached an immunity deal after 6 months of legal wrangling, mockery, and inescapable headlines. She gave a blood sample on August 3 to be compared to DNA on the blue dress she gave to the FBI. It was found to match. On August 6, she testified before a grand jury investigating Clinton. In the final report to Congress, all the highly intimate details of their affair are included. According to Clinton, most ordinary Americans would understand that a sexual relationship is defined solely by sexual intercourse. The nature of the intimate act was not specified. According to him, even the very granular definition of sexual relationship offered by lawyers in the deposition would not cover what prosecutors are suggesting he did. As the person being asked, the person who has oral sex performed on him, then the contact is not with anything on that list, but with lips. He was accused of lying by prosecutors and Congress. Clinton gave a public address later that day and admitted to an inappropriate relationship with Lewinsky. He was impeached by the House of Representatives on December 19, 1998, for lying under oath and obstructing justice, but acquitted by the Senate on February 12, 1999. Lewinsky was never asked to give in public testimony in the case. However, her words from her grand jury testimony were ultimately voiced in an audiobook. After the impeachment, Lewinsky had a difficult few years. Her legal bills were in the millions. As she wrote in Vanity Fair, interviews rarely resulted in job offers. After repeatedly being written off as too fat to be attractive, all evidence to the contrary, she briefly worked as a spokesperson for weight loss company Jenny Craig. Her TV appearances, including a brief stint hosting a reality dating show, contributed to her feelings of shame, she wrote in Vanity Fair. She moved to the UK in 2005 to study at the London School of Economics, where she was finally allowed a modicum of anonymity. After graduating, she bounced around working on various projects attempting to make a life for herself by her account. In 2014, realizing that she was unlikely to survive a Hillary Clinton campaign for the presidency in relative obscurity, she began writing for Vanity Fair and got involved in various anti-bullying campaigns. She gave a well-received TED Talk on bullying in 2015 and contributed to Mackenzie Bezos' anti-bullying campaign, Bystander Revolution. In 2018, producer Ryan Murphy announced he would not adapt, now scandal-plagued, author and commentary Jeffrey Toobin's 2000 book on the Clinton impeachment for an American Crime Story season, but would instead focus on Monica Lewinsky. In the end, he said to Lewinsky, "I want you to produce it, but you get all the revenue." Apparently, she took him up on his offer and was very involved in shaping the character's lines and portrayal. The series focuses on the media misogyny surrounding the scandal and how it affected the women involved. The blue dress. She wrote in Vanity Fair in 2014, "It's time to burn the beret and bury the blue dress." Yet, there is no evidence of what she did with either.